You're walking through a stretch of sawgrass in the Everglades at night, headlamp cutting a narrow cone through the dark, boots sinking slightly into wet mud with every step. Beside you, a python hunter stops, points at a patch of grass maybe 3 feet to your left, and says quietly, "There's one right there." You look. You see grass. You see mud, a few fallen leaves, the usual tangle of green and brown you've been walking through for the last 20 minutes. Nothing moves. You crouch, sweep your headlamp slower this time, inch by inch, certain that if there's really a 12-foot animal lying in front of you, your eyes will find it in a second or two. They don't. 10 seconds pass. 20. You're starting to think the hunter is messing with you, or mistaken, or pointing at something that slid away before you got there. And then it happens. A patch of leaf litter not 2 feet from your boot shifts. Just barely. Just enough to catch the edge of your headlamp beam. And the ground rearranges itself into a snake, a Burmese python, thick as your thigh, coiled and motionless, that has been lying exactly where you're looking this entire time. Here's the part that should genuinely bother you. This isn't a story about one unusually well-camouflaged snake. It's the normal experience of the people who do this for a living. And it raises a much stranger question than how did that snake get to Florida? It raises the question of why an animal this large can sit in plain sight of a trained human being and simply not be seen, especially when, as you're about to find out, the human visual system was arguably built over millions of years to be extremely good at exactly this one task. So here's what this video is actually going to cover. You'll find out how a snake native to the swamps of Southeast Asia ended up running one of the most successful invasions in American history. You'll see exactly what that invasion has done to the actual animals living in the Everglades in numbers that are honestly hard to believe. You'll learn why finding these snakes is so much harder than it should be, given what science says about how your own brain is wired. And you'll see the strange method researchers eventually landed on, not outlooking the python, but outthinking it, using the snake's own biology as the trap. Let's start with how it got there in the first place. The first Burmese python found loose in the Everglades was recorded back in 1979. At the time, it barely registered as news. Burmese pythons were a popular, if demanding, exotic pet through the 70s and 80s. Big, docile-looking snakes that outgrew tanks, outgrew owners' patience, and in some number of cases, ended up quietly released into the nearest patch of wild Florida instead of surrendered to a shelter or a zoo. One snake here, one snake there. Nobody thought much of it. You've probably heard the more dramatic version of this story, the one involving Hurricane Andrew. In August of 1992, a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane tore through South Florida and, among the enormous damage it caused, destroyed a private reptile breeding facility near the Everglades. According to the popular version of events, hundreds, some accounts say as many as 900, pythons spilled out of that facility and straight into the swamp. And that single storm is where Florida's python problem began. But here's the twist in that story, before you even get to the twist in this video. That tidy origin story is, at best, incomplete. Pythons were already being found in the Everglades well over a decade before Andrew ever made landfall. Genetic and timeline evidence suggest a breeding population had likely already gained a foothold in South Florida before the storm hit. The hurricane may well have added more snakes to an already established problem, an accelerant, not the spark. The real origin isn't one dramatic event. It's a slow drip. Years of individual pets released one at a time by people who meant no harm and had no idea what they were setting in motion, quietly adding up into something nobody could take back. By the 2000s, wildlife agencies had to accept an uncomfortable fact. This wasn't a handful of stray pets anymore. It was a self-sustaining breeding population of an apex predator, spreading through one of the most ecologically significant wetlands in the country. And Florida had absolutely nothing in its ecosystem built to stop it. So what does nothing to stop it actually look like in practice? In 2012, a herpetologist named Michael Dorcas led a team of researchers, including scientists from the U.S. Geological Survey, in a study that quantified the damage, and the numbers are staggering. Comparing surveys of mid-sized mammals before and after the python invasion took hold, they found that raccoon populations had dropped by 99.3%. Opossums were down 98.9%. bobcats had declined by 87.5%. And in the areas where pythons had been established the longest, the remote southern stretches of Everglades National Park, marsh rabbits, cottontail rabbits, and foxes weren't just reduced, they weren't detected at all. Sit with that for a second. Not fewer sightings, not declining numbers, gone from the survey data entirely in a landscape they'd inhabited for thousands of years. And these aren't guesses about what pythons might be eating. Researchers have pulled raccoons, opossums, bobcats, and even full-grown deer directly out of python stomachs. This is an animal with essentially no natural predator in Florida, moving through an ecosystem where every native species evolved defenses against everything except this exact threat. Which brings you to the obvious next question. If the damage is this severe and this well documented, why hasn't anyone just found the pythons and removed them? Florida does run organized removal efforts, professional contracted hunters, an annual public competition called the Florida Python Challenge, hundreds of participants combing the wetlands every year. And they do catch snakes. But here's the number that should stop you. Experts estimate that for every single python that gets spotted and removed, somewhere between 1 and 1,000 more are out there, completely undetected. 100 to 1,000. That's not a small margin of error. That's the difference between a manageable problem and an invisible one. And it circles you right back to that moment in the sawgrass, standing 2 feet from a 12-foot animal you couldn't see. Because the honest answer to why can't people find these snakes isn't really about the snakes being unusually sneaky. It's about something happening, or failing to happen, in the human brain doing the looking. Here's where this stops being a story about a snake and starts being a story about you specifically. Because you would assume, reasonably, that humans are simply bad at spotting reptiles hiding in foliage, that this is some kind of built-in blind spot. The actual science says almost the exact opposite, and it's honestly one of the stranger findings in evolutionary neuroscience. In 2006, a researcher named Lynn Isbell proposed something called the snake detection theory. Her argument is that snakes were such a persistent, dangerous predator for early primates that they directly shaped how primate vision evolved. Compared to other mammals, primates, including you, have unusually sharp color vision and a disproportionately large pulvinar, a region deep in the brain dedicated to rapidly flagging visually important objects. Isbell's idea sat as a theory for years, until a follow-up study in 2013 put it to a direct test. Researchers recorded individual neurons in that region in monkeys and found cells that fired faster and stronger in response to the shape of a snake than they did to faces, hands, or plain geometric shapes, locking on to a snake-like form in as little as 55 milliseconds. That's dramatically faster than conscious thought, faster than you could ever decide to look for something. Some part of your visual system is built to catch a snake shape before the rest of your brain even knows it's paying attention. So here's the genuinely strange part. You are, quite possibly, carrying around one of the most snake-optimized detection systems of any land mammal on the planet, and it still couldn't find a python lying 3 feet away. That's not a contradiction. It's the key to the whole mystery, and it's the twist that reframes everything you just learned. Your ancient alarm system was built primarily to catch motion and a recognizable snake silhouette against a busy background. The classic threat of a snake darting, coiling, or striking. Burmese pythons don't do any of that when they're hiding. They go completely, perfectly still, sometimes for days at a time, blending their broken, blotchy pattern into leaf litter and shadow so thoroughly that the outline your pulvinar is primed to catch simply never resolves. It's not that your brain is failing at this task, it's that this particular snake has, essentially by accident, found the one gap in an ancient defense system. Hold still long enough, and the alarm that's supposed to fire in 55 milliseconds never gets triggered at all.
Once researchers understood that trying to outsee the python was a losing game, no matter how good human vision theoretically is, they changed strategy completely. Instead of relying on eyes at all, a biologist named Ian Bartosek, working with the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, helped pioneer a method that uses the snake's own biology against it. Researchers surgically implant a small radio transmitter into a male python and release him back into the wild. They call him a scout snake, or or bluntly, a Judas snake. Because from December through April, Burmese pythons gather into breeding aggregations, and a tracked male will do exactly what nature built him to do: seek out a large, reproductively active female. He leads the humans straight to her, often together with several other males converging on the same spot. It works. During one breeding season alone, this approach helped researchers remove 86 adult pythons, 53 of them females, along with 2,500 developing eggs, totaling 5,000 pounds of snake pulled out of the landscape in a single stretch of months. A single female caught before she lays her eggs can single-handedly prevent 50 to 100 future pythons from ever hatching. You don't beat this animal by looking harder. You beat it by understanding exactly what it's compelled to do and letting that compulsion do the finding for you. Nobody involved in this pretends the python can be completely eliminated from the Everglades at this point. The population is estimated in the tens of thousands, spread across well over 1,000 square miles of wetland, and most researchers describe the realistic goal as control, not eradication, protecting the areas that matter most, slowing the spread, and preventing the next Everglades from happening somewhere else. Which is really the most useful thing to take from all of this. This entire crisis didn't start with some inevitable ecological disaster. It started with individual decisions. Pet owners, one at a time, deciding that releasing an animal into a swamp felt kinder than the alternative, with absolutely no idea that decision would eventually help erase 99% of the raccoons from an entire national park. If you ever find yourself with an exotic pet you can no longer keep, that choice is the one lever you actually control, and it matters more than it looks like it does in the moment. And the other thing worth carrying with you is smaller, but strange enough to sit with. The next time you're outside, hiking, walking through tall grass, wherever, and you feel that flicker of unease looking at a patch of undergrowth for no reason you can name, that reaction isn't random and it isn't silly. It's the same 55-millisecond system Isbell identified, older than your conscious mind, still quietly scanning for a shape it was built to catch. It won't always be right, but it's worth a second look before you dismiss it. Because as an entire ecosystem in South Florida has learned the hard way, the things that are best at hiding are often lying perfectly still, right where you're already looking.